Good evening and happy Friday. My name's Shayna and I'm with the Trade Exchange. And I wasn't with you last week. I actually had the chance to get to New Orleans for Jazz Fest. And if you haven't been, highly recommend you go. I go every year. It's great food, great culture, great city. The people are amazing. So if you're from there, I'm very fond of your city. But back in the seat now, back in the markets, and we are in quarter two of 2017. So what's gone on? What's gone on this week and what's gone on this year? Taking a look at our indices, we can see not a lot of movement this week, but for the year, we can see we've had a really strong 2017 so far. So our Dow closed out 21,000 spot 006, so it's up spot 3% for the week. For the year, we're up 6 spot 3%. S&P's closed out 23.99, so we're up spot 6% for the week. Again, for the year, we're up 7 spot 17%. Nasdaq is up just spot 86% for the week. Big mover this year. It's up 13 spot 3% this year already. Looking at gold, gold closed out today 1228 spot 40. So gold's actually down for the week. It's down 3 spot 2%. Again, for the year, we saw a big push into commodities quarter one, didn't we? So gold for the year is still up. It's up 6 spot 68%. Looking at the VIX closed out 10 spot 57. But if any of you are watching today, we were watching it, and it was interesting because the markets were going up, and sure enough, the VIX was going up right along with it, which isn't what typically happens, is it? So the VIX was going up, and we did see it start to realign itself. At the end of the day, the VIX did tick back downward, so it did realign itself before it did eventually close out today at 10 spot 57. What did drop this year? I bet you can all guess it. Oil. So oil got dropped this week. It closed out. Let's pull up the chart so you can take a look here. Oil closed out 46 spot 51. And we saw it drop down. Yesterday it hit a 5-month low. For the week, it's down 3 spot 2%. For the year, we are down 15 spot 3%. So it hit a 5-month low yesterday. It bounced back 1.5% today. It bounced back today because Saudi Arabia reported and gave assurances that they believe that Russia is really going to join in with the OPEC nations on these production cuts and extending production cuts. But you can see that the market still feels as if it's finding this bottom. Where is it going to bottom out? Because there is a lot of glut in oil right now, and it's counteractive to all the OPEC cuts from last year. So we can see that oil closing out 46 spot 51. What's going on here? And keep in mind, Saudi Arabia is the only country that since January has been very, very diligent about staying well below production cuts. And they've kind of been shouldering the other countries that been a bit weaker at really obeying those strict production cut numbers. So you have to wonder, and you have to be cautious about how long is Saudi Arabia really going to want to shoulder this burden. And they may just continue to, as they may see the importance of this. But it is something to keep in mind. Again, Saudi Arabia is confident with the assurances they gave today with Russia, and that is that bounce back we saw. Moving on, what did we hear about a lot this week? Warren Buffett, IBM, right? IBM took a hit this week. It fell right out of bed. Take a look at this. The stock fell $4. It fell 2.5%. So what happened? Well, Warren Buffett, he's been a big investor in IBM, as we all know. And he basically stated that over the past 6 years that, he was a strong investor. However, he's now starting to downsize his position. He's starting to sell shares. And he actually started in the first quarter. And he was quoted as saying that he doesn't value IBM the same way he did 6 years ago. And in fact, he said when he first started investing in IBM, their pre-tax earnings were about $20 billion. Now, IBM's pre-tax earnings are closer to $13 billion. So he said he was disappointed in their earnings. And he said he has reevaluated it, but he's reevaluated it downward. As he announced that he had been pulling out and starting to sell his shares, the market reacted as we would expect because a lot of traders and investors and individuals really respect Warren Buffett and his investment advice, and they follow what he does. So on the news of his thoughts of IBM, we can see what happened to the stock. We see this real sharp decline, dropping 2.5%. It closed out this week at 155 spot 05. Moving back to our markets, what's gone on? Well, unemployment, we are at the lowest level since 2007, 4 spot 4%, and non-farm payrolls, we beat expectations. So we had the FOMC meeting this week. In the FOMC meeting, they did not raise rates. However, the big banks are still gunning, saying they think that they're going to raise rates come June. I mean, look at this. Unemployment numbers are at its lowest. Non-farm payroll beat expectations. Traders that we heard, they said they still felt that the FOMC meeting this week was still dovish. However, again, these big banks are still gunning for that rate increase come June. So keep that in mind that that's coming up. and this weekend. So we have on Sunday, finally, the French presidential election. What's going to happen? The polls are saying it's going to be Emmanuel Macron, right? But as we know, we very well know from our last American election that polls aren't always correct, and we saw that firsthand. So it'll be interesting to see if Emmanuel Macron is elected. As we know, he's very pro EU, he's very pro immigration, and he's quite a decisive stance than Marine Le Pen, where she had her thoughts on the watch list and what should be done there regarding her thoughts since the terrorist attacks that she announced. So very interesting to see where the French citizens vote on that, especially when you look at it. Remember, on June 8th is the snap election with Theresa May in the UK. So it's going to be very interesting to see the different thought process, because she's over there going to be helping the UK and possibly assisting the UK in leaving the EU. And then you have the French citizens possibly electing in a leader who's very pro-EU. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in Europe over the next couple of months. But I want to thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'm very happy to be back with you again. And I look very much forward to joining you next week. Have a wonderful night and have an even better weekend. Bye-bye.